Hi, everyone. This is Robin Duncan. Welcome to Miracles in Prayer Live. And I will be your host for this series. In this broadcast, we will be sharing real miracle stories that came through prayer and listening to higher guidance. Today, my guest is my husband, Terry. And many years ago, a short time after Terry and I met, we were studying A Course in Miracles together. And as we were studying, we learned that miracles are natural, and we began experiencing them as a natural part of our daily living. In fact, in A Course in Miracles, it says that miracles are natural, and when they are not happening, something has gone wrong. Well, today, Terry will share what happened for him while he was on a business trip in Colorado. He found himself in a life-threatening situation where he needed a miracle, and he can tell you more about that. Welcome, Terry. What's your miracle story?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you. Well, my story starts in Southern California back in the late 90s, and I had already been living there for a few years. And actually, it was God's guidance that had brought me to Southern California, but that's a whole miracle story for another day. And I was an executive for the large electric utility power company in Southern California. And it was February of that year. And I had need to travel to Colorado on a tight schedule to go and see a client in Grand Junction, Colorado. So my game plan was that I was going to fly into Denver. I'd probably get there around 5 p.m., rent a car, drive up into the Rocky Mountains, would be dark by then, and head to Grand Junction, check into a hotel, and see my client the next morning. Well, that was my plan, but it definitely did not happen that way. When I arrived at the airport, got my rental car, and got on the interstate and started up the mountain, it was already starting to get dark. And being February, wintertime, and some snow, I had grown up in Ohio, so I had a lot of experience of being in cold weather and snow and driving in conditions like that. So that didn't seem to be an issue for me. I checked the weather ahead of time, and some light snow was planning to come in. And so I dressed accordingly, not for heavy snow, anything like that. But there I was traveling along, listening to the radio as I started up the mountain into the high Rockies. And while I was listening to the radio, I heard a weather report, and they said that a snowstorm, a pretty heavy snowstorm, in fact, a blizzard, was blowing into the Rockies unexpectedly. And they said the area that it was coming into, and I don't know the Rockies very well, but I knew the towns on the map of the route that I was taking. And they didn't mention any of those towns. So I figured, it must be somewhere else in the Rocky Mountains. So things should be okay. So I continued on, and at that point, I then turned the radio off, and I called Robin on my cell phone to tell her I'd gotten in. We were good friends and had been talking every day for years, literally, about A Course in Miracles. So it was normal that I would be talking with her, and of course, we were talking about A Course in Miracles while we were driving. And I was commenting to her how the snow was getting a little heavier. What I didn't know was the weather forecast that said a blizzard was blowing into the Rockies. I was actually heading straight for it. And so as I was driving along, talking with Robin, I mentioned that the snow was getting a little heavier as it got darker. And by this time, I was already up into the mountains and well into my trip, and thought, it doesn't look too bad. I'm experienced. I can handle this. So I kept driving. And so the snow got a little heavier and a little heavier, to the point where visibility was starting to cut back. But I was already so far along, it really wasn't at a point where I could turn around and go back. So I continued on, still feeling okay with the route. And there was only one car ahead of me, and it was far enough ahead of me that the snow had gotten so thick that all I could see were its taillights, the red taillights at this point. And I thought, well, I'll use that as a guiding beacon, so to speak, and continued on. Well, eventually, as the snow got heavier, those taillights disappeared, and I couldn't see them anymore. And so continuing to talk with Robin, I thought I could still see the tracks from, by this time the snow was sticking to the road. And so I could at least see the tire tracks of the car ahead of me, even though I couldn't see its taillights anymore. So I continued on, and the snow got heavier, and the tracks were starting to fill with snow. So at that point, I told Robin it's probably a good idea for me to get off the phone and focus on the driving. And so we said a prayer together about peace and guidance and safety with the Course in Miracles theme. And with that, we signed off, and that I would check in with her later. So I continued driving on, and the snow was coming down much heavier now. Visibility was getting less and less. And those tracks I was following were beginning to fill very fast, to the point where you almost couldn't even see them anymore, as I continued into this blizzard that I didn't know I was heading into. And so as I continued driving on, it literally just started blowing and blowing heavier and heavier. And now those tracks from that car were gone. And I began to slow down because the visibility was getting shorter and shorter out the windshield. And so as I was driving along much slower, the wind was just blowing past my windshield, or the sides of the car, almost horizontally. It was so strong. And, I definitely got nervous and thought, let's pray, let's focus on God here and A Course in Miracles and ask for guidance. I had received guidance from God many times previously in miracles. And so I was already experienced at listening and knew to do that and knew to trust what I felt like was information coming to me. So I knew God had my back. And so I continued on, and the snow got so heavy and it really became a whiteout. And so I was creeping along on the highway, and I thought, I need to find somewhere to get off, because this is just going to get worse. But where? Because I really had no clue where I was at that point. And so as I was driving along very slowly, white out in front of me, one of those things that's happened to me before in the way of what I felt is communication from God is that I felt the inclination that I should look to the right out the passenger side of the window of the car. And as I did, just very briefly, it was almost just an instant, there was a street light or some kind of bright light that flashed through the snow, and it shined on a sign that had the name of a hotel, and then it instantly disappeared right after that. And I thought, whoa, okay, so there's a hotel over there somewhere. Maybe I'm near an exit somewhere. Felt like maybe that's what that was communicating to me. So I continued a little further, but I thought, how do I find the exit? I can't see. And so what I didn't know was by then I had already passed the exit ramp for that location. And so I just got to a point where I felt like I should stop because it was too dangerous to go forward. I could run into somebody that stopped ahead of me, and obviously that wouldn't be good. So I stopped there, and the blizzard is just coming in, and it's a whiteout in front of me, and I can't see at all. And so I sat there and yet again prayed for guidance. I'd been brought this far, so what's next, Father? Because I know you've got my back. And as I sat there, I thought, well, maybe you're supposed to get out and try to walk back to that hotel. I really wasn't dressed warm enough to do that, and I could just be run over by somebody that wouldn't see me, so that didn't feel right. And I thought, well, if I could turn around, I could drive back to that hotel that I saw. But how would I do that? I had no idea how much further the next exit was, and therefore, how would I do that? Because I couldn't even find the exit. So I just sat there and prayed. And as I did that, I just really felt very calm in this situation. And so as I prayed for guidance, I just felt the urge that I should inch my car forward very slowly. And I had already learned from previous experiences, it felt like an okay thing as far as what was coming to me as a message to do and not a dangerous thing to do, because I knew God was there with me. And so I didn't challenge it, like, why inch forward because you can't see anyway? So I began to inch forward in the car. And as I did, I began to just faintly off in the distance see a light red flashing light. And I thought, wow, I wonder what that is. And so as I went a little further, I could tell it was the flashing light of an emergency vehicle. And I thought, oh, I'm near something. Continue going. And I felt a little more at ease upon seeing that. And as I got closer to it, I realized it was 2 or 3 emergency vehicles with all their flashers going on. And they were on one of the passageways that goes between the 2 highways, like the state police use to turn around and go the other way. And I thought, oh, okay, there's a crossover right there. And interestingly enough, there's a bunch of emergency vehicles lined up one after another with their red lights flashing, showing me the way. And so I inched forward, and I was able to find the crossover and drive along past them. And I got to the other side, and I thought, okay, now I need to get back on the highway going the other way, but I still can't see. How would I do that? And just as I said that, here came a couple of cars going the other way. So I could see their headlights and taillights. And I felt like I should pull out and get right behind them because all of us can see just kind of following in a trail. So I did that. And I'm now thinking ahead of myself that, there's got to be an off ramp here somewhere to get off to get to that hotel. And so I thought, I still can't see. I have no idea how to find this off ramp, but I'm still praying for guidance. So I kept following this car closely in front of me. And then the snow just came in so heavily and another gust of wind that I could no longer see that car, and it disappeared. And I thought, oh, okay, car's gone. Don't know where the ramp is. It would be great if I could find this ramp and get off. And at that moment, yet again, the wind kind of quit for a second. And I realized, I looked up and I saw this light above me and realized in following that car, it had led me down the exit ramp. I was already off the highway and didn't know it. And I was on the street, right in front of a crossing road. And I thought, crossing road, I at least had a sense of direction of where this hotel was. And I thought, I need to go left here. And so perhaps this is a road that takes me over in the direction of this hotel so I can, get into shelter. So I turned left and the blizzard kept coming again. I still couldn't see. And as I inched forward, I began to start seeing a light on the right side of the road. And as I got closer, I realized it was a gas station, one of those 7-Eleven, Dairy Mart kinds of places. And I thought, oh, great, I'm being led here. Thank you, Father. And I pulled into there and I thought, I'll go inside and ask somebody for, where is this hotel? How do I get to it? So I went inside feeling like that's what I was supposed to do. And I'm standing at the cash register talking to the teller behind the cash register and I said, somewhere there's a hotel around here. Can you tell me how to get to it? And just as I said that, someone else that was there shopping said to me, do you want to get to that hotel? And I said, yeah. And they said, I'm going there right now. You can just come outside and follow me. I'll drive up to the hotel and you can get to it. I said, great, thanks a lot. So I followed him outside. He got in his car, I got in mine. And he said, we have to go through the back of the parking lot of the gas station. And there'll be a stop sign there. And we'll turn right at the stop sign, go up the hill. And at the top of that hill, there'll be another stop sign. Turn right there and it'll lead you right to the hotel. And I thought, okay, so I'm following him and his car gets stuck in the parking lot and he's stuck in some ice and spinning. And so I got out and went up and asked him, I said, do you need me to help you? And he said, no, that's okay. I'm just going to stop here anyway for a while. You can just go around me and go up to the stop sign and just do like I said. And I said, okay, as long as you're okay. And he was. So I felt like that was okay to do. So I pull up to this first stop sign and I see the road in front of me is just covered in snow, a couple of feet of snow, something like that. And I looked to the right and I could see all the way up the hill was also completely snowed in. You couldn't even see the road. And I thought, how am I going to get up this hill in a rental car? And just again, as I sat there and prayed for guidance, out of nowhere from my left comes a bus. I mean, a passenger bus, full size, Greyhound bus, just out of the blizzard. And it blows past me and shoots all the snow on the road off the highway and just plows through the thing and goes up the hill. And I thought, cool, I'm supposed to follow this guy. I really feel like it. So I turn and I follow as this bus is just plowing the snow out of the way for me. And he gets to the top of the hill and he pushes the snow so far out of the way. What I didn't know is the stop sign at the top of the hill was also buried in snow. This bus cleared enough of the snow to see it. And he turns right also and continues plowing through the road. And I keep following him. And so I'm following this bus. And the next thing I know, the blizzard kicks in again and the bus disappears into the snowstorm again as magically and mysteriously as it had appeared initially. And so I thought, okay, what next? And so I'm sitting there waiting for a break in the blizzard. And yet again, there's a break in the wind and the snow blowing. And what I came to realize is I was sitting right in front of the front door of the hotel. That bus had gone into the parking lot of the hotel and I just couldn't see it anymore and didn't know it. I was sitting right in front of the front door.
You dropped right off. Right?
Yeah. So I was able to see enough to go and park my car. And there were people all over the place and the parking lot was really packed. So I went inside and it didn't even occur to me that, gee, maybe they won't have any rooms left. But I walk up to the teller and, ask them, hey, I just got stuck in the snowstorm. Do you have any rooms? And sure enough, they say, we have one room left. And
of course, right?
So I thought, okay, I'm supposed to have this room. And so I get checked into the room, and I hadn't had dinner yet. So I thought, I'm very thankful, and I'm prayerful and praying for thanks for the guidance and leadership that I got to get to this point. So I thought, I'm going to go down and have a nice dinner. Went down to the restaurant of the hotel. I could see the blizzard blowing outside. The restaurant was packed with people. Sat down at the restaurant dinner table and ordered a dinner. And the waitress finally came, brought me my dinner, brought me a nice cold drink, and brought me a candle for my table. I just got done calling Robin to say that I got there safely. And just as she brought the food and the drink and the candle, all the lights went out in the hotel. So
Wow.
I had candlelight to eat my dinner by, and it was quite delightful. And I was very, very thankful for that whole experience. So that's my miracle story. I was delivered.
That is so great, Terry. And I remember those phone calls. I remember you calling me on the front end and all of a sudden realizing that you're driving into a blizzard and that it was just coming on like crazy. And then I also remember the phone call when you were sitting in the restaurant. You said, "You'll never believe what happened." And I was
Right.
waiting to hear what was going on because it was quite a bit of time between your first phone call and your second, and it wasn't possible for us to talk. So just while you were in the middle of that blizzard and there's snow all around, you can't see a thing. And some people would say, well, maybe you have guidance that I don't have, or, did you have doubt? What were you thinking in your car when you can't see a thing? You don't know what to do. You don't know whether to get out or go forward or sit where you are. What was going through your mind in that moment when you have no idea what to do?
Right. That's a great question. And it really was a telling and powerful moment for me. Most definitely, I was feeling some fear. I'm in a blizzard. I could get hit by a snowplow or run over or just sit here and be buried in the snow. And those are certainly scenarios that went through my mind. But also, as I said, I had been studying the course for a few years already. I had already experienced several things in my life that I received guidance to get out of situations or was delivered from situations. And my experience had been that miracles occur for the most part in ways that you never can imagine, and that they come through in ways that you couldn't even have thought of. And in fact, the solution, the complexity of the solution ends up being so intricate, and the timing of everything so amazing. There's no way you could plan it out and cause it to occur that way. I had already experienced several times things of that nature. So I kind of had some God training through A Course in Miracles in that way. And even though I did feel some fear, I knew enough to trust, to ask God for guidance and listen. And being delivered from other situations, I knew that was my best scenario to go for. So I did.
So if someone has never had this happen before, or they've never experienced a miracle, I think both of us have learned that it doesn't depend on us having perfect thoughts. As we look back, we can start to see, how did this miracle happen? It seems like one of those things is that you automatically knew that help was available. Like
Right.
you paused and you let that help in. You ask for help divinely. I think another thing that really gives fertile ground for the miracle is that you don't decide against the miracle. It would have been easy for you to sit there and start judging yourself and think,
Right.
why didn't I call ahead? How come I didn't check the weather? How come I didn't bring warmer clothes? Why am I not prepared? It would be so tempting to start judging yourself or doubting yourself. So I find that miracles come so much more naturally if we will just not do that, and that you've gotten so good at not doing that. And so that very much allowed that guidance to speak to you, because if we are
Right.
so busy telling ourselves how we should have done it better or someone else should have done it better, then there's not a lot of room for that guidance to come in. So I love that you were in a situation that you knew you had help, that you made room for it. Thank goodness, because you're still with me today. I love that. And I just thank you for sharing your miracle, Terry. It means a lot to me. And I know the day that you experienced it, it was something that really gave me so much inspiration and desire to learn even more about A Course in Miracles. So through Terry's story, we are all reminded that when we are in a situation where we do not know what to do, we can pause, we can get quiet, we can ask for help, we can listen for guidance, and the guidance will come. Now, sometimes guidance comes in a strong thought or a gentle nudge or a voice. Some people hear a voice. I've heard a voice a few times, but mostly it's a strong thought. Sometimes if there's another person there, the guidance might come through them. Or you might even read something on a billboard or a t-shirt, or even hear a song on the radio. The important thing to remember is that God will always speak to you in a way that you will understand, and it will feel peaceful because God is love. Well, let's finish here today with a prayer for those who might feel that they are in a tough situation. You know who you are. And this prayer is from my Miracles in Prayer book. The book is 150 prayers for everyday living. And this is prayer number 7. It is called Making a Reservation for Peace. And so we can make a reservation for peace in the same way that we make a reservation for dinner. You know, we call ahead and we expect peace. So for those of you listening or watching this broadcast, take a moment to think about whatever challenge you are facing, bring it to your mind, and hear the words of this prayer. Dear God, I would like to call ahead and make a reservation for peace. Regardless of my circumstances or the severity of my challenge, I trust that you are walking with me and there is nothing to fear. Thank you in advance for a happy, peaceful, and miraculous outcome to my situation that is far beyond my greatest expectations. I trust that you are skillfully handling every detail on my behalf. With your divine guidance, I am assured that the right people, resources, events, and circumstances are being perfectly aligned for my greatest happiness and the highest good. I gratefully accept the abundance of your blessings and trust that your swift response to my request is a natural expression of your love for me. Thank you for replacing all of my fears, misperceptions, and self-judgments with the abundance of your love and miracles. Thy will be done. Amen. So as we offer that prayer about your situation, this is how we know that you have now turned it over and made a reservation for peace. And now you should feel some sense of relief, feel the burden coming off of your shoulder, and be willing to listen and follow what feels peaceful and compelling. I like to look for those two things to know that I am listening to higher guidance. You can download the Miracles in Prayer book for free at freeprayerbook.com. You can buy a copy of the book at miraclecenterstore.com. And this broadcast, Miracles in Prayer Live, is sponsored by AIWP Miracles Ministry, and you will find hundreds of free healing tools based on A Course in Miracles at miraclesforliving.org. We thank you for supporting this ministry, and all the links are below. If you have a miracle story and you would like to share it, please email me at robinduncan@miraclesforliving.org. I would love to hear your story and have you share it with our viewers. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to Meryl Hershey Beck. Meryl is the one that let us know about this great software so that we can share these miracle stories with you. And Meryl just wrote a new book for grieving parents. It is called Loss, Survive, Thrive. Bereaved parents share their stories of healing and hope. Be sure to get a copy of her book if you know of a parent who is grieving the loss of a child. This is Robin Duncan and my guest, Terry, and we are here with Miracles in Prayer Live, And please be sure to hit that like and subscribe buttons if you enjoyed this broadcast, and you will be notified about our next miracle story. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep the faith, ask for guidance, and remember to expect miracles. Bye for now.